Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Walkthrough Radio Show with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. And if you're checking us out on YouTube, it's the Walkthrough Radio Show. So we appreciate your support no matter where you're listening. K-Walk, what's going on this morning, man? How you doing?
All is well, man. All is well. Looking forward to tonight's Game 7, Jay. A little nervous, man. A lot more nervous than I was Friday night. So it's a brawl for it all, to use our Martin term, to brawl for it all, man.
Yes, sir. There's no bigger word in sports than Game 7, man. So we got a great one tonight that we're definitely going to talk about. But before we get into Game 7, man, let's go back to Game 6 because like myself and a lot of others, we thought this was the end for Miami, man. I did not think they were going to go into that hostile environment, get a win on the road, especially because they're banged up. No Tyler Hero. You got to give Jimmy Butler a ton of credit, man. He showed up in a big way. But let's go back to Game 6, man. Give me your thoughts on Game 6 and how that played out.
Yeah, I mean, just the obvious, Jimmy Butler just came to play, man. I mean, I didn't expect a game like that for him. As a Heat fan, you hope for a game like that from Jimmy Buckets, especially him being the best player on that team. You hope for a type of performance night in and night out, but you can't really, you can expect it, but you don't really count on it happening. But what a big game, man. I mean, it was an elimination game. Their backs against the wall. You mentioned it. It was a hostile environment. Kyle Lowry showed up as well. I thought, that was huge, the way and their defense actually played very well, man. Especially, the age of saying is defense travels, man. And then, it really traveled to the TD Garden Friday night, and those guys they really came to play. Strus hit some big shots there. Bam still needs a step up. After that 131-point game, we haven't really seen Bam other than that. Before that game or after that game, but other guys stepped up. Like I said, Kyle Lowry stepped up. Strus stepped up. Oladipo stepped up in various ways, especially on the defensive end of the court. He stepped up. So. Very shocked, Jay. I was one of those guys. I pulled out my my emergency jersey Friday night.
Yes.
And, it paid off, man. But hopefully, it can continue. They had some extra added motivation as well, Jay, by saying, but Draymond Green saying that they're going to play Boston. I mean, that still could come to fruition. That still could come to fruition tonight. So, but it gave them a little bit more, a little bit more fire, if you will. So, hats off to the Miami Heat in that game, and hopefully we get a similar game and outcome as well for tonight.
Yeah, man, 100%. And that, I think that was the best game of the series because as we've talked about before, we had some blowouts, we had some odd games just where guys would get 25-point lead in the first quarter. I feel like that was the most complete game. I mean, Miami did get away from them for a little bit. Boston worked their way back into it. Yeah. But for me, that was the most entertaining game. So now, man, we head back down to South Beach tonight, 8:30, Game 7. How do you see this thing playing out, man? Like, did Jimmy Butler leave it all on the floor in Game 6? Does he have enough for Game 7? And if K-Walk, is there any word on Tyler Hero? Is he going to go tonight?
To answer the latter part of your question first, I haven't heard anything yet. He's still fighting through it. He was expected to give it a go on Friday night, so I'm expecting the same thing. I haven't heard anything official, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But yeah, I do expect Jimmy Butler to leave it out on the floor tonight. I expect every player, not just the Heat players, not just Jimmy Butler, on both teams. I just expect, it's the Game 7. Like you said, it's the best two words in sports, Game 7. So I expect all these guys to come out and play and give it their all. I think Tyler Hero may give it a go. If he doesn't give it a go tonight, Jay, that groin injury is a lot serious than we thought, because you got to fight through something like that. If it's just something that you can just maintain, to say, age of saying, are you injured or are you hurt? If you're hurt, you can go. If injured, you can't. So it looks like right now Tyler Hero is injured, and I can't see a competitor like that sitting out of Game 7 to go to the NBA Finals if he's not truly injured. But yeah, I expect every guy on that court to leave it all out there. It's going to be probably the best game. I know the last game was definitely the best game of the series, but I think we're going to see a better one. Hopefully the refs don't decide this game one way or the other. I don't want them to have any input in it, because last in game 6 there were some questionable calls, Jay, for sure. But yeah, I expect everyone to come out and play game 7 ball.
Yeah, 100% agree with you about the refs, man. Stay out of it. Let these guys play. I just hope there's nothing ticky-tacky or controversial toward the end of the game to kind of ruin a great game. Okay, well, let me ask you something about both teams. Like, we expect our stars to play well, right? We expect Tatum to play well. We expect Jaylen Brown to play well. We expect Jimmy Butler to play well. Let's start on the Miami side. Taking Butler out of the equation, who do you think has to step up for Miami tonight? Whether it be a role player, whether it be a secondary guy, who do you think is the second most important guy tonight that needs to play well for Miami?
Yeah, without question. And I mentioned his name earlier. That's Bam Adebayo, man. I just think that he's been MIA for the majority of this series. For 5 games of this 6-game series up to this point, he only gave us 1 game really that showed that he can actually do that night in and night out if he really puts his mind to it. But it seems like he's just shying away from those big guys. He's shying away from Robert Williams. He's shying away from Al Horford when they go down low. It just seems like he gets down there and then he's pivots and he's looking for someone, on the perimeter outside of the 3-point line. So without question, it's Bam Adebayo. He's got to, if he can control the middle of that if he can control the paint and just give some decent points down there, it's going to open up so much on the outside for these 3-point shooters with PJ Tucker, with Max Strus, even Kyle Lowry could hit some 3-pointers, and then hopefully we'll see Duncan Robinson come through tonight. I think he's due for a big game. I don't know when it is. Hopefully it's tonight. But yeah, I think Bam by far, without question, is the second most important guy on the Heat team to get it done.
Yeah, man, it's weird with Bam. Like, he almost had I hate to say Ben Simmons because it's not that bad, but he had a moment like where he was right at the rim with the ball and just threw it out like he didn't want to shoot it. So I feel like Bam might be in his own head just a little bit. So it'd be nice to see him come back and really play a great game. What about on the other side, man? We expect Tatum, we expect Brown. If Boston's going to win tonight, is there a key guy on that side who you feel like needs to play really well tonight?
I think it has to be Al Horford. I think we go back down low. I think he has to be more consistent. He hasn't been as consistent as he is. He has some big games in the beginning of the series, or those 2 games that they won. And then he had the big game on game 5, excuse me. But he didn't hit a lot of shots. It wasn't about the quantity for him; it was about the quality. He hit quality shots. So I think Al Horford, if he can do the same thing, if he can stretch the court. Excuse me, my football move. If he can stretch the court a little bit, for sure. Let Robert Williams do his thing down there. Jason Tatum, force the issue, drive and dish. Al Horford, I think Al Horford, inside and out, not just outside, but inside and out. I think he has to be that guy that has to come to play and perform if the Celtics want to advance to the finals.
Yeah, I agree, man. Big Al has to play a great game. He needs to go back to that Milwaukee Big Al where he was, one of the most dominating guys on the floor. He went back in time and found himself. Hasn't quite been able to do that this series. He's been solid, but hasn't really made a huge imprint on the series so far. So I think you're right. Like, for Boston fans, if Al Horford plays a great game, I think Boston might feel pretty good about it. All right, man, let's make a prediction. I know we know you're a Miami fan, but we're going to ask you to take your fandom to the side and put your sportscaster, sports commentator hat on. How do you see this thing playing out, K-Walk, when it's all said and done? Who's going to the NBA Finals?
Jay, something's telling me that it's going to be the Celtics, man. I just don't know what it is, man. I'm taking the fandom out of it, like I said, but it just seems like, Miami's been a little bit more inconsistent than Boston, even though it's the series is tied 3-3 and they're at home. It just seems like Boston is the better team for some reason or another. In my opinion, they just have a couple of more guys that have been playing. Their superstars or their stars have been playing more consistent than Miami stars. We mentioned Bam Adebayo being absent for the majority of the series. But Jaylen Brown's been playing good. Jason Tatum's been playing good for the most part. I mean, I know he had that one game, he had 10 points. But then you have Marcus Smart in there, and then you have I forget the young kid, the young skate. I think it's Wright. Is it Wright? Yeah, I think it's Wright.
Yeah.
He's been stepping up as well, and Pritchard's been stepping up as well. So it just seems like they've been more consistent, with with their scoring and with the support that they give to one another. So I'm going to give the edge right now to Boston to advance. But that's hey, ladies and gentlemen, that's not the fandom in me. All right, I'm preparing for the worst and I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, it's funny, K-Walk, because I've been kind of on Boston this whole series. I said, look, I think at full strength, they're the better team. I felt like Boston was going to win this series. But now I've kind of shifted, K-Walk, in that I think they blew their opportunity on Friday night. Okay. I really do. I felt like they really needed to win Game 6. When they didn't get it done, I think it's going to be a tall order to go into Miami tonight and win that game. So even though I've been on Boston this whole time and I don't necessarily want to change my pick now, I would not be surprised at all if Miami walks out of there with the win tonight, because I just think Boston needed to get it done in Game 6. I know They beat Milwaukee in Game 7 on the road. I'm just not sure they can do it again, K-Walk. So I wouldn't be surprised if Miami walks out of there with the win. I'm going to say Boston just so I'm not flip-flopping all over the place. But, man, I would not be shocked at all if Miami.
You're not known to do that, Jay. You're not known to flip-flop.
I know, man. I'm trying to reel some of that in. But, yeah, man. Either way, hopefully we get a good game. Just give me a good game, and I'll be happy either way. All right, man, let's stay on this NBA topic. Zion Williamson. We know he didn't play at all this year. He is up. He could get a new contract, an extension. They're talking depending on how the cap plays out, could be anywhere from 182 million to 195 million, 5-year deal. It's a simple question, man. Do you think the Pelicans should go ahead and extend Zion? Should they offer him this money given the recent history?
Yeah, Jay, I think you should, because of the fact that I think you're going to pay him off of his potential, and there's a lot of potential there. I know it's one of those leagues that, what have you done for me lately type leagues, and you really don't want to give that much money to a guy who hasn't played. I don't even think he's played 82 games in his career. I don't even know. I have to do the research, but you pay this guy just like you drafted him number 1 overall, and you pay this guy, what you gave him. And I think they're going to continue to do that because you just don't want to give that type of talent up. I think that year off will help him tremendously. Hopefully it does. Hopefully, he's staying away from the buffet lines and things like that. And he's kidding. And he's getting in the gym and he's working on his craft, Jay. But yeah, I think they will. Would I do it? No, I wouldn't do it, Jay. But I think the Pelicans will do it. I just think there's too much talent there for them not to do it.
Yeah, and you mentioned the buffet line, and I didn't love the analogy that he used. He's hungrier than ever, K-Walk. I said, look, sorry, a guy that's had some issues with your weight, choose something else. Don't say you're hungrier than ever, because I'm like, yeah, I bet this dude is hungry. You know what I mean? He's ready to feast, that's for sure. But yeah, man, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Because if you don't give it to him and he goes somewhere else and balls out, then you look like an idiot and it sets your franchise back for the next 10 years. Yeah. If you do give it to him and he ends up not being in shape, eating his way out of the league, never being healthy, that's a lot of money for a guy that you can't count on. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I think you're right, K-Walk. The way that they're passing money around in the NBA nowadays, I feel like they almost have to give Zion that money because, if he ends up reaching his potential, as you alluded to, they're going to feel pretty silly if they let that guy walk out of the door. So
Yeah, Jen, I think that what they have to do as well. If they're gonna look at it from that aspect, which I expect them to do, you got to throw some incentives in there. Something that can protect them from that big contract. If he's not able to play, there's got to be some type of clause in there. So listen, you're only going to get this X amount of money if you play X amount of games, or throw some type of clause in there. I know they know how to work that, but I think if the Pelicans can give them a big deal, but protect themselves on this at the same time, I think that's definitely the way to go for sure.
Yeah, man, that would be smart. If there's a way to work something in there where he's got to play X amount of games to get X amount of money, at least they've got some built-in protections for a guy that, I don't want to say he's unreliable, because sometimes guys do just get hurt. But to me, the weight issues and the lack of discipline from that side of it is a big concern. So no, you're right, K-Walk. If they could do something like that, that would definitely add a little bit of protection from their end. All right, man, one more NBA topic. The Lakers finally have a head coach. They went with Darvin Ham, a former NBA player, won a championship with the Pistons back in 2004. Has been a long time assistant, most recently with the Milwaukee Bucks. What did you think about the Darvin Ham hire? Is this the right guy for the Lakers?
Without question, Jay, it definitely is. He was the number one guy on the list. He was the number one guy, not just the Lakers list, but everyone who, the so-called experts, if you will, they thought that he would be a perfect fit for the Lakers. So Jeannie Buss and Kelly Tripucka and Kurt Rambis, finally got something right in this case. I know, he hasn't, coached a game yet with them, but I think this is the best candidate for them right now. So I think he, like you mentioned, he's a winner. He's been an assistant for a long time. He understands the game. He's a no nonsense guy too. And I think that's what the Lakers ultimately need. A guy that's not going to be, that puppet type guy. Is going to do whatever LeBron says, or do whatever Russ says, or do whatever AD says. So a great pick for that organization. I think he'll ultimately turn it around and they'll get back to their winning ways for sure, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I like it too, man. I think you're right. They needed somebody who's going to be a coach, who's not afraid to speak up, have some discipline, have some structure, not get pushed around, so to speak, by some of the superstars on that roster.
Right.
So from that standpoint, I do like it. But I'll also say, like, the front office, they've got to help this guy out some, right? It doesn't help just to bring him in and then not do anything with that roster. So they've got to do something with that roster. They need to get a lot younger, add some shooters. And then I think if they do that, he's got a real chance to succeed. So first thing, they got the coach right. Let's see if the moves that they make down the road continue. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm happy for Darvin Ham. I think he's the right guy for that job. All right, man, let's grab a quick break. When we come back, we're going to switch over to the NFL. I got some receivers for you, man. We're going to do take your pick on some of the greatest receivers of all time. K-Walk's going to tell us if he could only pick one, who he would take. We'll do that as soon as we come back. You're listening to the walkthrough. We'll Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back. You're listening to the walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. And also, if you're watching on YouTube at the Walkthrough Radio Show, we appreciate your support wherever you're listening to us. All right, K-Walk, NFL receivers. And to the listeners, if you guys don't know, K-Walk is the receiver extraordinaire. You're never going to hear him bragging about himself. You're never going to hear him talking about himself. But trust me, K-Walk is underrated as a receiver. So I got some receivers for him today that he's going to take his pick. Okay, well, let's just come right out the gate firing, man. Let's come right out the gate firing. I think most people have these two guys 2 and 3 in whatever order you choose on their list. I got T.O. and Randy Moss, K-Walk. Two of the best to ever do it, but take your pick. Who you got, T.O. or Randy Moss?
Oh my God, Jay, when you presented this to me, this was a tough one, man. It's still a tough one for me, but I am going to go with my man T.O. The reason why I'm going to go with my man T.O., and this is a tough one, ladies and gentlemen, is that I'm not trying to make it sound like Randy Moss was a bust or anything like that. So a Hall of Famer. But T.O. was just an animal, man. Just the size he had. I mean, Randy Moss had the speed. T.O. had a combination of speed and size and strength. And once he got that ball, you try to jam him off the line. He's going to get off the line. You could put a safety on him. You could put a linebacker. You could put a corner on him. He's still going to get off the line, and he's going to beat you short on a slant or a stop route or whatever the case may be. But he can also take it deep too. He also can kill you with that 9 route. So I went with T.O. here. I think he was just a better all-around receiver from a physical standpoint. But again, ladies and gentlemen, Randy Moss was an animal. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he could arguably be considered the greatest receiver of all time. I still give that to Jerry Lee Rice. But between these two guys, I'm just going to take T.O. in a slight one.
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at it at all, K-Walk. And some of it too is just personal preference, because both of these guys were great. And I've seen a lot of people talk about Randy and just how unstoppable he is and just how different he was. And we've seen the images of him mossing people and everything like that. Not taking anything at all away from Randy Moss. I mean, the way he just came into the league and just took over, was just absolutely ridiculous. But for me, I'm kind of like you. I think I just prefer T.O., I just do. Yeah. I feel like just maybe a little bit more variety in the route running, as you said, could go across the middle, could take you deep, could catch the quick one right off the line and do some things. So I think T.O. as well. If someone was picking Randy, fine. I have no argument against it. None. For me, I think my personal preference would be T.O. Let me ask you this, K-Wall. Which one of those guys had better hands, though? We both took T.O. as our receiver, but does Randy have the better hands, would you say?
That's a good one. Yeah, T.O. was known to drop some balls, man. T.O. was known to drop some ball. I think he dropped like 4, 5, 6 in one game, but he came in that game against Green Bay in that wild card game. So I'm gonna say I'll give it to. I don't know, man. I didn't see Randy catch a lot of balls with his hands, man. I saw him go up and jump, and he always was catching it with his body, bringing it in. So I'm going to give the nod to T.O. as well, man. I'm going to give the nod to T.O. on that one as well.
Yeah, at first I was thinking it's Randy because I've seen T.O. drop some, hit him right in the hands and drop some. But you're right, Randy was a lot of body catching, catching. So, yeah, it's hard to say, man. But, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I was thinking Randy at first, but then as you started talking, I'm like, yeah, maybe it is T.O. But, yeah, that's a tough one. All right, let's move on, man. I got 2 other good guys for you. These guys are different, but both really, really good. Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. Who you got, K-Walk? Take your pick.
Wow, man. Megatron was just they called him Megatron for a reason. We talked about T.O. and the size. Megatron was just the same type of player, if not better, a little taller, a little faster. I think. I don't think Megatron was that fast, a little faster than T.O. Fitz was just that guy, man, and he can contort his body in so many different ways. This is a tough one, Jay. I'm going to give the slight edge to Megatron. Just because of his size. I think that's the only difference there. Even though Fitz is a big receiver as well, I just think that Megatron just had a little bit more size there, and his arm length, it was just unbelievable. I just wish he played a little longer for sure, but to each his own. But yeah, I'll give the slight edge to this one to Megatron as well.
Yeah, this is tough, man. It's another tough one because you're right. I think like when you look at Megatron, like to me, he's more of an unguardable receiver. One-on-one, I feel like, it's going to be a long day if you try to cover this guy one-on-one. And we've seen him go up top and make tremendous plays and things like that. But I think I'm going to go the other way here, man. Just Fitzgerald from a consistency standpoint, longevity standpoint. Great hands. This is not going to be a guy that drops a whole lot of balls. Maybe not the threat as Megatron was from a big play standpoint, but certainly could get you a first down whenever you needed it, and just the consistency and longevity. So I'm going to go with Fitzgerald. But hey, again, this is another one where whoever you pick, there really is no wrong answer to this question. All right, man. 2 more greats here. 2 more greats. Chris Carter, all he does is catch touchdowns, and the playmaker, Michael Irvin. Take your pick, K-Walk.
Good gracious, man. You know what, man? Playmaker is a playmaker. That's his nickname for a reason, man. I mean, he just did what he did, man. I mean, he could kill you off the line. I mean, that's one of his greatest things is you try to jam him at the line. He's just unstoppable there. And I'm going to give the slight edge to Chris Carter on this one, man. I think he, without question, has the greatest hands ever in the history of the NFL. I've never seen anyone catch the ball the way he did, with such grace, such smoothness. I mean, the way he, as they call it now, the toe drag swag on the sideline, it's just, I'm going to give the slight edge to Chris Carter. And like you stated, Jay, his nickname, I think Buddy Ryan named him that, was all he does is catch touchdowns. And that's what he did, man. And I loved his trash talking as well. I don't know if he can get with the playmaker as far as trash talking goes, but from a receiver standpoint, I'm gonna give the slight edge again to Chris Carter. And again, ladies and gentlemen, it's a slight edge, nothing to take away from the playmaker.
Yeah, all these are close, man. They're all close.
Yes.
Neither one of these guys is going to scare you with their speed, right?
Right.
But look, and I love Michael Irvin. Don't get me wrong. What I'm about to say, I'm sure people are going to think I'm hating on him a little, but I'm not. But I do think because he played for the Cowboys, that maybe that elevated him a little bit. Great receiver,
Okay.
Not saying he wasn't great, but I do think the fact that he played in Dallas and they were winning some Super Bowls at the time, I do think that elevated him some, whereas Chris Carter did not have the playoff and championship success. But I agree with you, man. I think I would take Chris Carter as well. Like you said, the greatest hands from a receiver that we've seen. You get in the red zone, you could go to him at any time. So I'm going to take Chris Carter. Two great receivers. Cowboys fans, I'm not hating on Michael Irvin at all. Great receiver. But I think I would give the slight edge to Chris Carter, man. But again, that's another tough one. Yeah. All right, man, this one might be a little easier. I don't know. Isaac Bruce, who I think is underrated as a receiver. I really do. Yeah. And Reggie Wayne, the great Colts receiver who played alongside Marvin Harrison. Who you got here, K-Walk? Isaac Bruce or Reggie Wayne?
Yeah, this was a little bit easier for me, Jay. I'm going to go with Isaac Bruce. Reggie Wayne, don't get me wrong. Reggie Wayne was a really good receiver. I played against him in college. Very, very fluid receiver. Loved his size. But I think Isaac Bruce and his route running ability was just unbelievable. Very underrated, as you stated, from a speed standpoint as well. When they were in the, what was it, the greatest show on turf. I mean, that was just unbelievable to watch him and Torrey Holt and Akeem, I forget his last name. I forget his last name, but anyway, Isaac Bruce was just a great receiver, man. Just really great receiver, had great hands, even though was that Torrey Holt? I think Torrey Holt I think Isaac Bruce had the finger that bent one way. He had his pinky bent. So. I think that was. I think it was one Isaac of those. Bruce. Yeah, but but to catch if that was him, to catch a ball like that with that pinky going that opposite direction or going horizontal instead of vertical, then you even make him an even better receiver. So, but yeah, I definitely do like Isaac Bruce over Reggie Wayne in this case, Jay.
Yeah, I'm going to take Isaac Bruce as well. Again, two great receivers, but I think Isaac Bruce was underrated. I really do, man. Great route runner, great speed, just a really good all-around receiver. So I'm going to take Isaac Bruce as well. All right, last one, K-Walk. We got Marvin Harrison, who we know what he did with Peyton Manning. I mean, put up tremendous numbers. And then I went back in time a little bit, man. Steve Largent, the great Seattle Seahawks receiver. Maybe some of the listeners aren't that familiar with Steve Largent, but I know you are, K-Walk. So who you got, man? Marvin Harrison or Steve Largent? K-Walk, you there? I think I lost you. I think we lost K-Walk, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and...
We left off where you were asking me about, I believe it was Marvin Harrison and Steve Largent, correct?
Yeah. Marvin Harrison and Steve Largent, man. You were just about to take your pick. I thought these receivers questions got too hot for you, man. You said, I'm out of here. I said, what happened to K-Walk? But no, go ahead, man. Marvin Harrison, Steve Largent, take your pick.
Yeah. Again, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for the technical difficulties there. But this is kind of easy for me, Jay. I'm gonna go with Marvin Harrison. Had a chance to play against him when I was at Temple, and he was one of the only two receivers that I've ever played against, Jay, that I actually, when they're on the field, instead of me being on the bench listening to the game plan or the offensive listening to my receiver coach, I was actually on the sideline on one knee with my helmet down, admiring what this guy did when he was at Syracuse. He and Bobby Ingram were the other guy. So definitely just in awe with the guy, man. He was just someone I tried to patent my game after, being a shorter receiver, but just so quick. And he was very quick, Jay, very precise in his route runnings. He had the great opportunity to play with Peyton Manning, who arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. So with his ability to run routes and his ability to catch the ball along with a great quarterback, I mean, it just elevated his game to a tremendous height. But yeah, I'm going to go, nothing against the great Steve Largent, but I have to go Marvin Harrison here for sure.
Yeah, man, I'm 100% with you here. I'm gonna go Marvin Harrison as well. And I know what it's like, man, to come across a guy that you just want to stop and watch. My situation was a little different, man, but Joey Galloway for me. I think he was a couple years before us, but I was a young DB. I got in the game late, man, and I ended up one-on-one with this guy in the slot. And K-Walk, when I tell you this guy's speed, he was so fast. Luckily, the quarterback threw a bad throw and they didn't complete it. But man, I was like, oh my goodness, like this guy's speed is ridiculous, man. But I know what that's like, man, where you see a guy and you're just like, wow, this is something I need to watch. But yeah, man, I'm with you. Marvin Harrison all the way. All right, K-Walk, good stuff there, man. We're a little over on the time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up my segment. We're going to grab a quick break. When we come back, K-Walk's got some great stuff to get into as well, ladies and gentlemen, so stay with us. You're listening to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Again, you're tuned to Sports Talk with K-Walk alongside, I'm Sports, I apologize, guys. Welcome back to the walkthrough with myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. Guys, having some technical difficulties, man, here. I don't know what's going on right now with me today. But listen, going to cut my segment a little short, that way we can end on time. But what I want to do is great stuff, by the way, Jay. I want to stay on the NFL talk, and we had Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick worked out for the Las Vegas Raiders. Reports came out that he looked good. No contract was offered to him or anything like that, but they're saying the arm strength is still there. And which I never questioned his arm strength, Jay. I thought that would still be there. I thought the physical skills would still be there, or the tools will still be there. But the fact of the matter is, I just think that him being out of the game for so long is going to play against him, Jay. I know you can argue that there are certain guys that he's better than in the league. A few guys, you could just throw a couple guys out there who are holding clipboards or at third string quarterback. But Jay, what say you about Colin Kaepernick? And do you think are we tired of hearing this? Are you tired of hearing this? Or do you think he has a legitimate chance of getting back into the NFL?
K-Walk, from day one, I always said that I thought Kaepernick would never play in the NFL again. I said that from day one. I never thought that he would play again. We've seen him do some workouts, some videos. This tryout feels like the most realistic opportunity that he's had. But like you said, man, it's been so long. It's been 5 years? So I mean, just take everything else and put it to the side. If you just have any quarterback that's been away from the game for 5 years and then tries to come back, I think that's a big ask of anyone, man. So I just think it's going to be tough. I'm going to stick to my guns, man. I don't think he's going to get signed. I really don't. And if he does, I don't know that he might be a backup, and that's great. I mean, if that's what he wants to do, I'm rooting for him.
Right.
But I don't see it happening, K-Walk. I really don't. Like even Andrew Luck, I mean, and I think he's only been out of the game maybe 3 years, maybe 4. I don't really know. But I think it'd even be hard for him to come back to the game after just being away. It takes some time to get used to the speed of the game again, your body getting used to being hit again, just the grind of the NFL. So, and Colin Kaepernick isn't getting any younger. So it's a long shot, K-Walk. If someone wants to give him an opportunity, great, but I don't really see anything really coming from this.
Yeah, Jay, I agree with you, and I don't want it to sound like, I kind of knocked him on Wednesday night show, the Sports Talk with K-Walk and Scott. I kind of knocked him, as far as him not being able to be better than some of these quarterbacks that are on rosters right now. But I just think that everything that you mentioned, the physical aspect of it, the grind, the work that you actually have to put in. And then, the speed of the game. I think the speed of the game has changed, and the play of the game has changed since he's last been in the league, for sure. And I just think, throwing on air, throwing against, no defense. I mean, that looks good. Anybody can look good doing that. I mean, you put me out there, I can still run routes really well, but can I still get off the line? Can I still, read that receiver? I mean, I read that linebacker on that blitz, can I still do that? Because it takes a lot of time to read, because you got to read certain positions in order, and sometimes at the same time. And it goes by so fast. You mentioned the speed of the game. And I don't know, I'm not saying he can't do that, but it's going to take a lot of time for him to get back. And like you stated, Jay, he's not getting any younger. And I just don't think that he'll be ready to play. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I am a huge Kaepernick fan. I have Kaepernick jersey, and I have a Kaepernick shirt. I'm all Kaepernick. Believe you me. But I just don't think, I think this right now, the time is passing by. If he did this, 1-2 years after, he left, then I would say, okay, yeah, legitimate chance.
Yeah.
But 6 years afterwards, Jay, I just don't see it happen. I mean, I heard it was a great workout. No contract was offered, so that may tell you something there, Jay. That may tell you something there. I don't know if he's going to get any other opportunities. Go ahead.
And I mean, if we're really being honest, K-Walk, he wasn't great the last time we saw him either.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? So
right.
It's not like he went away and got better. So if he was just okay the last time we saw him, he's not he's going to come out here and set the world on fire. So it's a reach. And again, I would love to see someone bring him in if that's what he wants to do. But I just think it's a reach, man. It is a huge reach.
Yeah, and I said the same thing, Jay, as well. Is that's one of the things that I mentioned as well, is that, when Cap went out, I mean, Cap wasn't like, it was like one of the top tier quarterbacks. He wasn't, even when he went to the Super Bowl, with the 49ers, and they were 5 yards away. They were, 5 yards away from winning. He couldn't make that throw. He didn't make that throw. Yes, he had great legs which ultimately got them there, but he wasn't like he was, he was a rock star. And I said, like an Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was I think he was a top tier before he left. Okay.
Absolutely.
But Cap wasn't up there. And now all of a sudden you're going to take 6 years off and you're going to come back and be just as good or just as better. Even if you are just as good, that's okay, great. But if you expect him to be better with a 6-year layoff, I don't see that happening. But again, I'm hoping, I'm a big fan, Cap. If you're listening, brother, I'm a big fan. I'm not trying to knock you, but I understand it's hard to take off a year, let alone 6, and come back and try to hone that craft again, man. I just don't see it happening for you. But I am rooting for you, brother. Don't get me wrong. But staying on the quarterback talk, Jay, and I want to talk about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is skipping OTAs right now. We know he's in his contract year, 5th year of his contract. Right now, no extension has been offered by the organization. What say you? They asked Coach Harbaugh about Jackson skipping OTAs, and his reflection was, ask Lamar why he's not attending OTAs. Don't ask me.
Yeah.
So what say you about this? Is this has to do with a contract, Jay? Is this a contract issue for Lamar and why he's skipping OTAs?
I think so. I think it's got to be a contract issue. He obviously wants the extension. I think he deserves an extension. He's played well.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten them to the playoffs. It's either 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. I can't remember. But he's played well enough to get an extension. Now, the numbers might be something where some people disagree on how much he should actually get. But I definitely think it's contract related, especially when you look at a guy like Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills who has already been extended. So I do think they need to figure it out. But also Lamar said, like right now, these are voluntary workouts. And we all know kind of how the voluntary, mandatory voluntary workouts work in football. But he did say he would be there if once camp gets rolling, and that eventually he would be there. But it's tough. Like if this is a running back, a receiver, a DB, you might say, okay, but when you're the quarterback, especially on a team that has high hopes, building that continuity, building those connections, relationships, timing, all the things that it takes for quarterbacks and receivers, I do think it's important for him to be there. So hopefully they can get this thing worked out and kind of figure it out. But again, I like Lamar Jackson, but I don't love him. I mean, look, and people can say what they want about that. I think he's good, but to me, I still think there's some areas where he's got to get better. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing plays out, K-Walk, and if they're going to get something done. But I think right now he's trying to make a statement by not being there.
Yeah, and you got to ask yourself this too, because you could look at Aaron Rodgers. He's holding. I mean, not holding. I'm sorry. He's not attending OTAs, and he's got some new receivers there. Losing Devontae Adams, and you bring in some of these young receivers that he brought in. You would think that you want to try to get that continuity going as soon as possible, whether it be OTAs. I know like you stated, it's not it's not mandatory. It's voluntary. And these are vets. We get that. They don't want to go through that grind. They don't want to go through that. They know, what what steps they can take or what steps they can skip, I should say, in doing this. But I think when you have a new receiving core and you got rid of, but you traded away Hollywood Brown in the Ravens case, and you got some new receivers in there, I think you want to get in there as quickly as possible to try to gain that or obtain that chemistry with those guys as quickly as possible, because that's crucial, man. It really is. That quarterback to receiver relationship is crucial, and immediately, if you got a chemistry with one another, first couple practices, what guy you want to go to in certain situations. I don't know if it's had to do with anything with the contract. I think they will extend them. It's kind of like the Zion Williamson thing, a little different, but it was like, what have you done for me lately? Do you give him the max deal? Do you pay him high tier? Where do you pay Lamar Jackson at? But where you put him at, and as far as the salary per year goes, and what kind of guaranteed money are you giving to him as well? But I think Lamar is that guy, man. He's their guy. Obviously, I don't know where else you can go to get another guy like Lamar. But like you stated, Jay, he's one of those guys that, you want to date, but to use your term, you want to date, but you necessarily don't necessarily want to marry him, So, but he's still a guy that, you want to be in a relationship regardless. So, I'm not making a big deal out of Lamar not being there, other than the fact that I think he should be there just to make sure that he gains chemistry or try to guide him to get some type of continuity with those receivers, especially being the new guys coming in there. For sure.
Yeah.
Listen, ladies, we're going to forego our last break due to technical difficulties. So I'll continue with this. Next guy, Jay, is we kind of talked about this guy quite a bit, and that's Deshaun Watson. Right now, Deshaun Goodell's come out and said that they're no longer investigating it. It's just a matter of when they're going to make their decision right now. Now, what say you? And there's also another. There was a HBO special, I think 2 weeks ago, a week ago, where one of his accusers came out and said, that Deshaun came onto her pretty heavily, said that, I don't want anybody messing with my career, just like you don't want anybody messing with your career. There was other things put in there between, but the fact of the matter is she felt threatened by once he said that. So that's come out, Jay, but it seems like he's been cleared for the most part. Do you see him at this point, especially with Goodell coming out and say we're almost at the end of this and we're going to make our decision, fairly soon? What do you see? Do you see him being started day one for Cleveland? And if not, how many games do you see him being suspended?
Yeah, man, it's interesting, right? Because he's cleared all the criminal hurdles. So like he's got that behind him, but there's still 22 civil cases that are out there.
Right.
Where the burden of proof is a lot less. Now, again, I don't know if anything will become of those either. That he may have to pay a little bit of money to somebody. Who knows? I don't even want to speculate with all that. But we've seen the NFL punish people for less. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So from that standpoint, I would not be surprised. But also, I mean, I think the NFL has to be careful here because, I mean, do you really just want to start punishing people based on accusations, right? If somebody says something about you, but then it doesn't play out in the courts, are we still going to hand you down a punishment for that? So I think that gets a little bit touchy. So
yes.
I'm going to say if they do give him a penalty, K-Walk, I can't see it being any more than 4 games. And I'm leaning more towards 2 games. Like, I think if they come out, I don't think they're going to hammer him with 8 games or anything like that. I can see it being somewhere in that 2 to 4 range if they feel like maybe there was a little bit of smoke where there was fire. But it's kind of a touchy situation, man, because as far as the legal system goes, they haven't had enough to really go forward. So what makes the NFL say, oh, we're gonna use our own judgment here and start handing down penalties?
Right. Now let me ask you this too, Jay. Is him missing the entire season last season, would that play? You think that's going to play a big factor into how many games he gets this season as far as suspension, if any at all?
Yeah, see, to me, I would count that. If I was making the decision, I would count it as time served. I would say, look, this guy sat out all of last year. Now, we could say it was because of the Texans or whatever, but we know it was because of the controversy that was swirling around him, why he didn't play. So for me, I would count that as time served. He sat out all last year. He's ready to go on day one. But will NFL take that sort of approach? I don't know. And they might be feeling pressure too from outside groups saying, hey, wait a minute, this guy deserves some sort of penalty. And that's why it wouldn't surprise me if they gave him a couple of games.
Yeah, for sure, Jay. I mean, I think that's a big factor into it as well. And I think if he gets any, it'll be 2. I agree with you. I don't think it'll be any more. If he gets 4, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think it's going to be at least 2, no more than 4. To be perfectly honest, I think that him missing the entire season last season will play a major factor into that. That's just our opinions, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we got about 5 minutes here. I just want to jump real quick on some Kyle Lowry talk. Kyle Lowry, he's come out and said, he wants the big contract. He wants to be a Cardinal, but he wants that big contract. He even threatened in the beginning of the season or after the end of the season that he didn't want to be he's not playing unless he's extended. What say you about Kyler Murray? Will they extend him before the season?
It's tough, man, because I started looking up some of the numbers this morning for like what he's talking, K-Wall, and they were talking like a projection of 6 years, $280 million. That's $46 million a year, K-Wall. I like Kyler Murray. I do. I think he's very good. I think he's talented. I think he's got a good arm. We know what he can do with his legs.
Yeah.
But is the market really at $46 million a year for Kyler Murray? I mean, my goodness. But so again, I think they have to extend him because who else are you going to get? I mean, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks or even really good quarterbacks just walking around the street. So I think they have to keep him. And they did add some receivers to their lineup. So you kind of feel like they're all in on this guy. But man, that price tag just keeps going up and up and up, K-Walk. So but I think they're going to have to pay it, or at least somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, they're going to have to meet in the middle road somewhere. I mean, there has to be a middle road because I just don't see Kyler Murray being a $46 million a year guy. I just don't see. I don't see any quarterback being that, but especially not him. Especially him. I just don't see that for sure. But I think they'll get it done. I think they'll meet somewhere in the middle where both parties are happy. Because like you mentioned, they did bring in some guys, Hollywood Brown that we mentioned from the Ravens. So, and they, still have, those guys over there as far as D Hop. as well. So they're all in with him, Jay. So they may give him what he wants, or they may meet somewhere in the middle, if not closer to what he wants than anything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have from a segment. I want to jump into our start bench cut here. First one seems like it's actually does it? Nah, not really. I thought I was going to go with an all cowboy theme since you pledged your allegiance there, but I kind of switched it. out. I made it audible. Called an audible here. But I want to start with the defensive lineman here. We got Derek Thomas, the late great Derek Thomas. We got the late great Reggie White, and we got the current All-Star Sam Darnold. Start bench cut.
So we got Derek Thomas, Reggie White, and Aaron Donald, right?
Aaron Donald. I said Sam Darnold. I'm sorry. I said Sam Darnold. Aaron Donald. Yes.
All right, man. That's tough, K-Walk. That is tough. How do you cut any one of these guys, man? But I'm gonna start the Minister of Defense, man. I'm gonna start Reggie White, just because he was different, man. The strength, the speed, his ability to just grab a 300-pound man and throw him to the ground, K-Walk. I ain't never seen nothing like that, man. So I'm gonna start Reggie. I'm gonna bench Aaron Donald. Just because everyone says this guy is like, I mean, the GOAT. When you talk about interior defensive lineman, him and Sapp, I mean, that must. And then I'm cutting Derek Thomas, which sounds insane to me. But you got these three guys, man. It's hard to go in any direction, man. But that's how I'm going to do it.
All right, man. You're better. I mean, you're a braver man than me, for sure. I'm gonna start the Minister of Defense, like you said, the Minister. I'm gonna start Reggie White. I'm gonna bench Derek Thomas, man. I'm gonna bench Derek Thomas. The way he came off the edge with Kansas City, it was just like no other. I mean, he had 7 sacks in one game at one point. I mean, I haven't seen as great. I know Sam. I keep saying Sam. Aaron Donald gets double teamed a lot, and it's hard for him to get sacks. But he's a monster. Don't get me wrong. Not taking anything away from this. We try to make it as hard as possible. But yeah, I'm gonna cut Aaron Donald for sure, man.
Yeah,
for sure. So great stuff there.
I'm not mad at it at all.
I don't think you can go wrong with that. I was hoping you would say that. I can't go wrong with that one. But next one, we got NFL quarterbacks. We got, I don't know if he's your boy, but since you pledged your allegiance to the Cowboys, I'm gonna go Troy Aikman.
Oh, Troy. Okay.
Troy. Yeah, I'm gonna go Troy. No, I'm not gonna go Dak. Not yet. Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger. And just keep in mind, these guys have won multiple Super Bowls as well. So I got Troy Aikman for our listeners, Terry Bradshaw, and Ben Roethlisberger. Start bench cut.
I'm going to start Troy Aikman. Aikman, man. Just all those great Cowboy teams that in the 90s, and he was the leader of that. So I'm going to start Troy Aikman. I'm going to bench Big Ben. Just for what he's done with the Steelers and the consistency with that franchise. And obviously, as you mentioned, Super Bowl. Terry Bradshaw, I know he's got 4 championships, K-Walk. I know he was the leader of those great Steelers teams in the 70s, but I think he's overrated. I really do. I think football was different back then. They had Franco Harris, Lynn Swann. I can't think of the other receiver on the other side at the moment, but I don't know how much the quarterback impacted winning back then as much as they actually do now. So I'm cutting Terry Bradshaw.
Wow, Jay, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm starting Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw. Because that those 4 championships and some of the passes, I know he's overrated, but some of those passes that he made, even though you said football was different, he still had to put those balls on the numbers. I know he had, he had Lynn Swann, he had Franco Harris, he had why can't I think of the other guy's name on the other side? But he had some weapons nonetheless, and he put some balls on the point, and he had 4 Super Bowls. So I'm starting Terry Bradshaw. I'm going to bench Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman, I seemed like he's kind of overrated as well. I know he went to Oklahoma, then he transferred to UCLA, and then the 3 Super Bowls that he had with Dallas, even though he had the playmaker Alvin Harper, Jay Novacek, that offensive line, Emmitt Smith, the list goes on and on.
True.
I still like he still had to get the ball. Some of those throws he made was really phenomenal. I'm going to cut Ben Roethlisberger. I'm nothing again to Big Ben, but I just don't think that he can compare these two in my opinion, looking at it going back. But yeah, I'm definitely again starting Terry Bradshaw, benching Troy Aikman, and cutting Ben Roethlisberger. The last one, Jay, and these are corners. These are current corners that are in the league right now. One is your guy because he pledged your allegiance to the Cowboys. So we got J.C. Jackson. Okay. We got Jalen Ramsey, from the Rams, and we got your guy Trayvon Diggs from the Cowboys. Start bench cut.
All right, I'm gonna start Jalen Ramsey because I think he's the best in the game right now. I really do. I'm gonna start Jalen Ramsey, and then I'm gonna bench Trayvon Diggs. Look, for everything I love about Diggs with the interceptions and things like that, he gives a lot of stuff up on the other side as well. So he's going to come off the bench for me. And J.C. Jackson, I'm going to cut him just because I'm really not that familiar with him.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to let him go. So give me Ramsey and then Diggs, and J.C. Jackson's got to go.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I'm going with that order as with you as well, Jay. I'm gonna start Jalen Ramsey. I'm gonna bench Trayvon Diggs, and I'll cut J.C. Jackson. Even though I think J.C. Jackson's a young up and coming corner. A lot of people haven't heard about him, but he is legitimate, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be hearing a lot about him for sure, and a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, can we get him?" Once he becomes available, a lot of people are going to be talking about him. But great stuff there, guys. That's all the time that we have. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. I appreciate you guys staying with us on this one. I always want to leave you guys with something. Today, I'll leave you with this. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. For myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins on the Walkthrough Radio Show right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. God willing, we'll talk to you next week.